The airport was busy, full of travelers rushing to catch their flights. People talked, laughed, and pulled their luggage across the shiny floor. But no one noticed the old man walking slowly toward Gate 22. He wore simple clothes, an old jacket, worn-out shoes, and carried a small black bag. His white beard was neat, and his eyes were calm. When he reached the front of the business class line, a young woman at the gate looked at him and frowned. She wore a blue uniform and a name tag that said Melissa. "Sir," she said loudly, looking him up and down, "this line is for business class passengers only." The old man smiled politely. "Yes, I know. This is my flight." Melissa laughed a little and rolled her eyes. "Sir, economy class line is over there." She pointed to the long line behind him. "Business class is for premium travelers only." People around started whispering and looking at the old man. Some giggled. One man even took out his phone to record. The old man stayed calm. "I have a business class ticket," he said, taking out a printed boarding pass. Melissa didn't even look at it. "Sir, please don't cause a scene. I'll have to call security." The old man took a deep breath. He looked at the screen above the gate. The flight was on time. Then, without saying another word, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small phone. He pressed one number and waited. Everyone watched. "Hello," he said softly. "It's me." "Yes. Do it now." He ended the call and slowly put the phone back in his pocket. Melissa crossed her arms. "That's not going to help you, sir. Security is on the way." But something strange happened. The gate's computer screen blinked once, then again, and went dark. Melissa tapped the keyboard. Nothing worked. "What the?" she whispered. All the screens at Gate 22 turned off. The boarding pass scanner stopped working. The loudspeaker went silent. People started getting nervous. Another gate agent ran over. "What's going on?" she asked. "I don't know," Melissa said. Everything just crashed. Then something even bigger happened. All nearby gates started having problems. Screens went black. Computers froze. Passengers were confused. Flight delays started showing up everywhere. In the middle of this chaos, the old man stood quietly, holding his small bag, watching. A man in a suit rushed to the gate. "What happened?" he shouted. Melissa looked pale. He made a phone call. Then everything shut down. The man turned to the old man. "Sir, who are you?" The old man smiled gently. "Just a passenger. But you should have let me board my flight." Security finally arrived. Two officers walked up to the old man. "Is there a problem here?" one of them asked. Before Melissa could speak, the man in the suit stopped them. No problem. In fact, he looked at the old man with wide eyes. "Sir, would you like to come with me, privately?" The old man nodded slowly. "Sure, but I'm not going anywhere until I get the respect I deserve." Passengers started filming the moment. Some were cheering. Others were shocked. The man in the suit whispered something to Melissa. Her face turned red. She looked down, embarrassed. One young woman in the crowd said, "That man just made one call and the entire gate shut down." Another replied, "Who is he?" The old man looked around and said loudly, "I came here to fly. I didn't come here to be judged by my clothes." Then he looked at Melissa and added, "Respect is not given by uniforms. It's shown by actions." The whole gate went quiet. The man in the suit stepped forward again. "Sir, I think it's best we talk somewhere else. Please." The old man nodded and walked slowly with him, leaving behind silence, shame, and curiosity. As they disappeared down the hallway, the screens at the gates stayed dark. Flights were still delayed, and everyone had the same question in their minds. Who was that man? The old man walked calmly down the long airport hallway, guided by the man in the suit. People stared as he passed. Some passengers took videos. Others whispered behind their hands. At Gate 22, Things were still out of control. Screens were black. The flight schedule board blinked and showed, all flights delayed. Employees panicked. Melissa stood frozen, still trying to understand what had just happened. This can't be real, she whispered to herself. He made one call, and everything crashed. Nearby, the second gate agent tried to restart the system. She tapped keys, checked wires, and called tech support, but nothing worked. The intercom was dead. The scanner was useless. In the tech room, a young computer engineer named Kyle sat staring at a red flashing warning on his screen. "What's going on?" asked his supervisor. Kyle's hands shook. "It's not just one gate. It's the entire network. Someone sent a silent command from a system level we've never seen before." The supervisor frowned. "What do you mean?" Kyle swallowed hard. "I mean someone has access from the core, like the root of the system, almost like the person who built it." Back in the private meeting room, the man in the suit, whose name was Mr. Harris, tried to stay calm. He offered the old man a glass of water. The old man politely refused. "Sir," Harris said, "I'm going to ask this very carefully. How did you do it?" The old man looked him in the eye. "Do what?" Harris cleared his throat. "Shut down the gate, the systems, even the backup lines, everything." The old man leaned back in his chair. "You're asking the wrong question." Harris looked confused. "Then what is the right question?" The old man replied, "You should be asking, why did I do it?" Harris blinked. "Okay, then tell me, why?" The old man sighed. "Because for years, your company ignored the people who helped build its success. You took names off systems. You erased credits. You fired people without thanks. And now, you treat passengers like trash, based on how they look." Harris's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The old man continued, "I didn't come here for revenge. I came for my flight. But your staff made a choice, and now you're facing the results." Meanwhile, news of the incident began to spread. Videos of the gate shutdown went viral online with hashtags like #Gate22Shutdown and #OldManPower. People were calling him the man who broke the airline. A major news channel picked up the story. They reported, "A mysterious elderly passenger at Gate 22 caused a full system failure at the airport. Witnesses say he made one phone call, and everything stopped. Who is this man, and how did he do it?" Back in the tech room, Kyle's fingers moved fast. He tried to trace the signal. After a few minutes, he found something shocking. "There's a back door," he said to his team. "Someone built a secret door into the system. Years ago, before the current software. It's like the system was made to listen to only one man." His supervisor frowned. "Who built our system?" Kyle replied, "It was based on an old design by a tech genius named Mr. Hamid, but he disappeared from the company history years ago." At that moment, a security guard walked into the tech room. "Do you know where the system creator is?" he asked. Kyle looked up. "I think he's sitting in the private room right now." Back in the private room, Harris's phone rang. It was the airline CEO. "Is it true?" the CEO shouted over the phone. "Did he do this?" Harris nodded. "Yes, sir. And he's not just anyone. He's Mr. Hamid." There was silence on the other end. "Fix it," the CEO said coldly. "And fix it fast, before the media eats us alive." Harris turned to the old man. "Sir, we are truly sorry. On behalf of the airline, I apologize for what happened at the gate." But the old man didn't answer. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, dozens of planes stood still. The entire airport was frozen. He turned around slowly. "This isn't just about me. It's about how you treat everyone. You don't need to fix the system. You need to fix the culture." Just then, a woman knocked on the door. It was Melissa. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. I didn't know who you were," she said softly. "I'm sorry." The old man looked at her. "That's the point. You didn't need to know. You should have treated everyone with respect, no matter who they are." Melissa nodded slowly. Then the old man reached into his pocket and pulled out the phone again. He pressed one button. And just like that, the airport screens began to light up again. One by one, the flights came back online. But before anyone could say a word, the old man turned to Harris and said, "Tell your boss. That was just the beginning." And with that, he walked out of the room, leaving behind silence, fear, and a warning. The airport slowly returned to life. Screens flickered back on, flights began boarding, and passengers moved again. But no one could stop talking about the old man who had frozen an entire airline with one phone call. He was now gone from Gate 22. But his name was beginning to spread, Mr. Hamid. Inside the airline headquarters, things were far from normal. A high-level emergency meeting was called. The CEO, Mr. Brandon Stone, stood at the head of a long glass table. His face was tight with worry. Department heads sat silently, waiting for him to speak. "Does anyone here," the CEO said slowly, "want to explain how a retired man brought our airline to its knees?" No one answered. "I want names. I want answers. I want the truth. Now." A nervous voice finally spoke up. It was Jenna, the head of the tech department. "Sir, we ran a trace on the system. The command that shut us down was sent through a back door, a master override that goes deep into the code. It was created 25 years ago." Brandon frowned. "By who?" Jenna hesitated. "By him. By Mr. Hamid. He's the one who designed our original flight control system." Brandon's eyes narrowed. "That man, the one at Gate 22. "Yes," Jenna said. "We erased him from the company history after he retired early. There were disagreements. He didn't want to sell his code to outside buyers. The board forced him out, quietly. No thank you, no goodbye." Brandon slammed his hand on the table. "And no one thought he could still access our systems," Jenna whispered. "No one thought he still cared." Meanwhile, Mr. Hamid sat quietly in a coffee shop near the airport. He watched people from the window, some rushing, some smiling, others checking phones. No one recognized him now. He liked it that way. But inside him, something had changed. He wasn't angry. He was disappointed. He thought of all the years he spent building the system, long nights, missed birthdays, sleepless coding marathons. He gave them his best, and in return, they kicked him out like he didn't matter. Suddenly, a soft voice broke his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, are you Mr. Hamid?" He looked up. It was a young woman, maybe in her 20s. She wore a badge around her neck that said Engineer, Tech Team. "I saw you at the gate," she said nervously. "I just wanted to say thank you. You're the reason I became a programmer. I read your old papers online. You inspired me." Mr. Hamid smiled. "What's your name?" "Amira," she said. "Well, Amira," he replied, "I hope you never forget one thing. Never let them silence your voice, even if they control the room." She nodded, eyes shining. Back at the airline, Melissa was called into the CEO's office. She walked in slowly, hands shaking. "You embarrassed us in front of the entire world," Brandon said coldly. "I didn't know who he was," she whispered. "And if he wasn't a tech genius," Brandon snapped, "would you still have humiliated him?" Melissa didn't reply. The CEO leaned in. "The media is on fire. People are protesting online. We're trending in the worst way. And now, every person we ignored, every employee we erased, is coming forward." He threw a file across the table. "Apologize publicly. Now, or hand in your badge." Melissa looked down, full of regret. Across the city, an old office door opened. Dust danced in the sunlight. A group of young engineers followed Mr. Hamid into the empty space. "This was my lab once," he said, "where the airline's entire brain was born." One young man said, "Sir, do you want to destroy them?" Mr. Hamid looked around the room, memories flashing through his mind. "No," he replied. "I want to rebuild something better." The team looked at each other. "You're starting again." Mr. Hamid nodded slowly. "This time, it won't be about profits. It will be about people." They smiled. Hope filled the air. But far away, the CEO Brandon wasn't done. He picked up his phone and made a call. "I don't care how," he said. "Find out where he is. Find out who's working with him. And stop him before this becomes a war." The small old office, once forgotten, was now alive again. Dusty computers were replaced with new ones. Old whiteboards had fresh ideas written on them. Young engineers sat on the floor, discussing code, designs, and dreams. All of it was led by one man, Mr. Hamid. He had no fancy title now. No corner office, no salary. But he had purpose. For the first time in years, he was building something that truly mattered to him. Not for power, not for profit, but to make travel safer, fairer, and smarter. And the best part, his new team didn't care about his age. They respected his mind. But just as the energy was building, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, Amira ran into the office holding a letter. "Sir, you need to see this," she said, out of breath. Mr. Hamid took the envelope and slowly opened it. Inside was a formal invitation. To Mr. Hamid, "The board of Skypath Airlines formally invites you to our headquarters for a private discussion with the CEO. We are willing to offer a public apology and explore a new partnership. Please respond within 24 hours." The room went silent. A young coder asked, "Do you think it's real?" Amira looked nervous. "It could be a trap. They just want to silence you again." Another voice added, "Or maybe they're scared. They know you've started something better." Mr. Hamid thought deeply. His eyes narrowed. "I built their system. I know how they think," he said. "They don't apologize unless they're desperate." He folded the letter slowly. "I'll go, but not alone." The next day, Mr. Hamid arrived at the Skypath headquarters. This time, he wasn't stopped at the gate. In fact, 5 security officers stood to attention and saluted him. The man they once humiliated was now being honored like royalty. He walked through the shiny glass doors, his team following close behind. Cameras clicked. Journalists whispered. Employees peeked out of their offices. And in the main meeting room sat Brandon Stone, the CEO, with a fake smile. "Mr. Hamid," he said, standing. "Welcome back." "I'm not here for welcomes," Mr. Hamid said calmly. "Why did you call me?" Brandon gestured to the chair across the table. "We'd like to hire you back," Brandon said, "as Chief Technology Officer. Unlimited salary, total control of your own department. We'll even rename our innovation center after you." The young team behind Mr. Hamid looked shocked. Even Amira leaned forward, unsure what he'd say. But Mr. Hamid didn't smile. He didn't thank him. He just asked one question. "Why now?" Brandon blinked. "Because we realize your value." "No," Hamid replied. "You realize your reputation is at risk." The room went cold. Mr. Hamid stood up. "You had your chance. You didn't just fire me. You erased me. You humiliated me. And you only care now because the world saw what you did." Brandon's voice rose. "You want revenge then? You want to destroy us?" "No," Mr. Hamid said. "I want something better. I want to build a system that puts passengers first. One that protects engineers. One that never forgets the people who made it." He turned to leave. But Brandon wasn't done. "If you walk out now," he warned, "you'll face everything we got. Lawsuits. Media spin. We'll paint you as unstable, dangerous." Mr. Hamid turned slowly. Try, he said. But this time, I have the people. And they have the truth. He walked out of the building, his team behind him. That night, Skypath's PR team rushed to fix things. They posted half-hearted apologies online. But the public didn't buy it. #WithStandWithHamid was trending everywhere. Videos of Melissa mocking him at the gate went viral again. People started asking, why are the good ones always thrown out? Meanwhile, back at the new office, something amazing happened. A small investor walked in, a quiet man in a suit. He placed a check on the table, $5 million. I saw what you're building, he said. I want to be a part of it. Mr. Hamid smiled. It had begun. Not just revenge, but a revolution. The office was buzzing with excitement. The $5 million investment had changed everything. New equipment arrived. More engineers joined. Former airline workers, who had once been ignored or mistreated, showed up to offer help. And through it all, Mr. Hamid stayed calm, focused. He didn't care about revenge. He cared about doing things right. One morning, Amira ran into the lab with a tablet in her hand. Her eyes were wide. "Sir, you have to see this," she said. On the screen was a news report. Breaking. Hamidtech, the independent startup launched by former Skypath engineer Mr. Hamid, is now trending globally. Thousands of tech students, pilots, and former airline staff are showing support. A petition to investigate Skypath Airlines for ageism and discrimination has crossed 1 million signatures. The video showed clips of people all over the world holding signs. Let builders lead. Respect the mind behind the machine. We stand with Hamid. Mr. Hamid looked at the screen quietly. Then he whispered, "The truth always finds a way." But not everyone was celebrating. At the Skypath boardroom, CEO Brandon Stone was having a meltdown. His face was red, and papers were scattered everywhere. "He's just one man," he shouted. "How is the whole world backing him?" An assistant walked in slowly. "Sir, there's something else. One of our largest investors just pulled out. They moved all their money to his company." "What?" Brandon screamed. "Why?" "They said they trust his vision more than ours." The room fell silent. Skypath was falling. Fast. Back at Hamidtech, something big was about to happen. After weeks of planning, designing, and building, Mr. Hamid stood in front of his team. Behind him was a large screen covered by a white cloth. "Today," he said, "we launch the future of flying." He pulled the cloth down. The screen lit up with a single name, NEXA. Gasps filled the room. NEXA was a smart airline management system. It used AI to track safety, comfort, and customer fairness. It even allowed passengers to report mistreatment in real time. No one could silence them anymore, not even managers at gates. "This," Mr. Hamid said, "is what freedom looks like." Amira whispered, "Sir, you just changed the world." But before the celebration could begin, something unexpected happened. An alert popped up on their main computer. Security unknown source attempting to shut down system. Everyone jumped up. "It's Skypath," one of the engineers said. "They're trying to destroy our launch." "No," Mr. Hamid said, stepping forward. "They're trying to scare us." He opened a backup terminal and began typing calmly. Lines of code moved fast across the screen. Then, silence. The room held its breath. Finally, Mr. Hamid smiled. "Blocked and traced." "What do you mean, traced?" Amira asked. "I know exactly which machine they used." The next morning, the front page of every major news outlet showed the headline: "Skypath caught trying to hack former engineer's startup." Public trust crashed even harder. Protests began outside their offices. Brandon Stone tried to deny it, but it was too late. Meanwhile, government officials contacted Mr. Hamid. "We want to adopt NEXA," they said, "nationwide." And just like that, the man they humiliated at the gate became the leader of a new era. Airlines, airports, and engineers lined up to work with him. Skypath, they were fined millions, and their CEO was forced to resign. Melissa, she lost her job and went viral again, for all the wrong reasons. But Mr. Hamid, he sat in a small corner of his office, smiling as he watched a young intern code. He didn't want the spotlight. He just wanted the system to be better. And now it was. The world was watching. News channels across countries called it the comeback of the century. Social media crowned him the silent giant. School students quoted his speeches. Tech companies invited him to talk. Even world leaders mentioned his system, NEXA, as the future of airline safety and dignity. But while the world cheered, danger was quietly growing in the shadows. Mr. Hamid didn't care about fame. He still wore the same simple clothes, still walked to work, still took tea with his staff. To him, it wasn't about power, it was about people. But power attracts enemies, and someone was watching him. One night, the office was quiet. Most of the team had gone home, but Amira stayed late, finishing a presentation. She stepped outside to grab coffee when she noticed something strange. A black SUV parked outside with no license plate. The windows were tinted dark. Amira froze. Inside, two men in suits stared straight ahead. One was holding a phone. She ran back into the building and locked the door. "Sir," she called out to Mr. Hamid, who was reviewing data on his screen. "Something's wrong." He looked up calmly. "What is it?" "There's a car outside. No number plate. Two men. Watching us." Mr. Hamid didn't panic. Instead, he stood up, walked to the window, and looked outside. Then he sighed. "I was afraid of this," he said softly. "Who are they?" Amira asked, her voice shaking. "People who don't want change," he replied. "People who were comfortable when corruption ruled. NEXA is making flying fair, but it's also making the wrong people nervous." Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. "If you care about your team, stop your system now. Last warning." Amira gasped. "Should we call the police?" Mr. Hamid shook his head. "No, we call the press." The next morning, instead of hiding, Mr. Hamid stood outside the office, holding a press conference. Dozens of journalists gathered. He spoke into the microphones clearly. "I received a threat last night. They want me to stop NEXA. They want to scare me, because we are fixing what they broke. But I will not be silent. And if anything happens to me, my entire system and its codes are already backed up worldwide." The crowd erupted in support. Hashtags trended again. Hashtag Protect Hamid. Hashtag Truth cannot be threatened. Hashtag Let NEXA fly. Still, the danger didn't go away. That evening, a fire alarm went off in the building. Smoke filled the lower floors. People screamed, rushing outside. Firefighters arrived within minutes and put it out. The cause: a small fire bomb in the basement. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But this was no accident. "Sir, this is too much," Amira said, trembling. "They're trying to destroy us." Mr. Hamid sat quietly, thinking. Then he stood up. "It's time," he said. "Time for what?" she asked. He looked her in the eye. "To reveal the final part of NEXA." The next day, Hamid Tech held a massive global live stream. Millions of people tuned in. Mr. Hamid stood on stage, behind him a massive screen. NEXA was built to protect passengers, he began. But now, it will also protect the truth. He pressed a button. The screen displayed real-time data, hidden abuse cases from airlines, secret manipulation of ticket pricing, discrimination reports that were buried, all pulled from past systems, evidence the public had never seen. "This," he said, "is why they fear us." Gasps filled the chat section online. Then came the final slide. NEXA will now go open source. No one can own it. No one can silence it. The moment he clicked confirm, the system's core code was uploaded to global servers. Anyone could use it. Anyone could improve it. It was now free forever. That night, hundreds of airline workers and tech groups pledged their support. Governments called to ask how they could adopt NEXA. Even the UN mentioned it in a public briefing. But far away, in a dark room, the same men in suits were not happy. One slammed the desk. He just gave away everything, and still won. The other whispered, if we can't stop the system, maybe we stop the man. They picked up the phone and made a call that would change everything. It was 3:17 a.m. The city slept. But in a quiet corner of the tech building, one light was still on. Mr. Hamid sat alone in his office, reviewing final safety updates for NEXA. The system had now spread across 30 countries. Airports were safer. Airlines had been forced to clean up their actions. And passengers, once helpless, now had power. But with every success, the threats grew. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then, darkness. Hamid looked up. The office was silent. Too silent. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Coming closer. He calmly reached for his phone. But no signal. The backup generator didn't start either. Then the door burst open. Two masked men rushed in. One grabbed him by the arm. The other held a metal rod. "Time's up, old man," one growled. "You should have kept your mouth shut." They dragged him out of the office. Meanwhile, Amira woke up to an emergency notification. System breach detected. Founder status. Unknown. Her hands trembled. She called security. Called the local police. Called every contact she had. But no one answered. She rushed to the building. When she arrived, the place was empty, but one shoe lay on the stairs. Hamid's. Tears filled her eyes. She picked it up and whispered, "Please be okay." Then she remembered. Mr. Hamid had once told her, "Always have a backup for the backup." She ran to the basement. Behind a false wall was a hidden server. She powered it on and found a video file, labeled, "If they ever take me." She clicked it. Mr. Hamid's face appeared. "If you're watching this, it means I've been taken. But don't worry. NEXA is protected. Every line of code, every file, every backup. They can't stop the truth. But now, it's your turn. I built the path. You must walk it. And never let fear win." Amira wiped her tears. Then she opened the final command he had prepared, a live stream. With one click, the entire world saw the message. The next morning, the world woke up to a new headline. Mr. Hamid missing. Public demands immediate action. Thousands gathered in cities around the globe. People held signs with his face. Airlines paused their operations in protest. News anchors cried on live television. The hashtag #BringBackHamid trended #1 in 68 countries. Governments launched a manhunt. Satellites tracked suspicious vehicle routes. Intelligence officers followed every clue. Finally, after 18 hours, they found a warehouse on the city's edge. Inside, Mr. Hamid, tied, bruised, but alive. When the rescue team entered, one of the men asked, "Sir, are you all right?" Mr. Hamid smiled weakly. "I'm old," he said, "not broken." The world rejoiced. Weeks later, a grand international ceremony was held. Leaders from across the globe gathered. Mr. Hamid was awarded the Global Medal for Human Rights and Innovation. But as he stood on stage, he didn't talk about codes, systems, or awards. He said just one thing. "This fight was never about me. It was about you. Every person who was disrespected, ignored, or made to feel small. I was just one voice. But now, we are millions." The crowd stood up. People cried. People clapped. People cheered. The same man they had laughed at the gate, the same man they ignored because of his age and clothes, now stood as the hero of the skies. And next to him, Amira, smiling, proud, and ready to continue what he started. 10 years later, the world had changed. Airports no longer had long lines filled with frustration. No one worried about discrimination at the gate. Passengers were treated like human beings because one man once stood up and said, "Enough." That man, Mr. Hamid. But today, the airport was crowded again, not with angry travelers, but with thousands of people gathering for a special event. It was the grand opening of the Hamid Terminal, a fully AI-powered, human-first airport facility named in his honor. Inside, everything ran on NEXA 5.0. No shouting staff, no unfair treatment, just smooth, silent respect for every human being, regardless of color, language, or background. At the heart of it all stood a life-sized statue of Mr. Hamid, one hand raised toward the sky, the other holding a boarding pass. Below it, a plaque read, "He wasn't just a passenger, he was the pilot of change." Amira, now CEO of Hamid Tech Global, stood beside the statue. Her hair had a few gray strands, but her eyes still carried fire. A group of students from around the world had come to visit the terminal. One young boy raised his hand. "Miss Amira, is it true that Mr. Hamid had no money when he started?" She smiled. Not even a working phone. He used a borrowed laptop and slept in the office. But his heart was full of truth. And that's what changed the world. Another child asked, "Did the people who hurt him ever apologize?" Amira paused. Some did, some didn't, but it never mattered to him. He didn't fight for revenge. He fought so you could fly with dignity. The children looked up at the statue again, this time with deeper understanding. Far away, in a small village, an old man sipped tea quietly while watching the terminal's opening ceremony on TV. His clothes were still simple, his home still humble, but the name on the mailbox read, Mr. Hamid. He had stepped away from the spotlight years ago, choosing peace over power, but he smiled gently as the camera zoomed in on his statue. He turned to the little girl sitting beside him, his granddaughter. "Do you know what's funny?" he said softly. "What, Nana?" she asked. "They laughed at me once because I stood at the wrong gate." She giggled. "That's silly." He smiled. "Yes, but sometimes being at the wrong gate puts you on the right journey." That night, social media flooded with stories from passengers. "I used to fear flying, but now I feel seen. They once threw me off a plane. Today, they welcomed me with a smile, thanks to Mr. Hamid. He didn't just change airlines. He changed us." The world hadn't just moved on. It had moved forward. All because one man refused to stay silent at the gate.